Afternoon all. Dear friends, I welcome you to this panel discussion on bridging the cultural gap, publishing folklore, historic legends and society. In a multicultural and a multilingual society like ours, it is very important that we are able to understand each other. As Dr. Vivek Devroy just said, anonymity does not lend itself to understanding of others. Therefore, we need to be able to understand each other. We need to bring about an environment in which we can understand each other. And one way to do that is through translation between the languages. It bridges the cultural gap in such a way that it allows us to see other Indians and people of the world through their own eyes, not through just our eyes. And I have an illustrious group here. I'm very proud to be a part of this, very honored. And here we have translators, we have writers and publishers. So our aim is to speak to them and see how they view translations mostly, how they deal with translations. And ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to Mysuru and Mysuru Literary Festival especially. And
on behalf of the panel, I'd like to say thank you to the Mysuru Festival for having invited us.
Thank you very much. And I'll be asking you questions, which are usually two questions to each one of you. And unfortunately, we don't have that much time, so about 8 minutes would be the average time, and the ladies here are very strict. So they will stop me mid-word. I'm afraid of them. So shall we get started on the questions?
May I take my minutes and simply tell a story that I think is important?
Please.
Okay. So once upon a time, there was a land called Monolingua. The people of this land spoke only one language, and they were very happy with it. It seemed to be going well, but they felt that there was something in their world that was missing, something that could be better in some way. So they went to their old woman, their oracle on the hill, and the oracle on the hill said, things can get better if you will go and get salt from Multilingua. Now Multilingua was across the river of meaning that flowed between Monolingua and Multilingua. It was a terrible river, a frightening river. There was the reef of idiom, and there was the whirlpool of spoken language, and there was usage, and there were critics who swam through the river like dark sharks. But the young woman said, I will go. And she went across the river, and she arrived in Multilingua, where they were very happy to meet her. And they said, what brings you here? So this monolingual said, well, we talked to our sage, and she said, we should come here and get salt from you. And they said, yeah, take all the salt you want, as much as you want. So the monolingual said, what is the cost? What do I have to pay for this salt? And the multilingual said, there is no cost. You'll get it free. But we have a rule. You cannot carry it away with you in a bag. You must make your boat out of salt, out of the salt of multilingua, and take it back with you. And the poor monolingual said, but the river will, and they said, yeah, that's the rule. If you would like some salt from multilingua, build your boat and take it back. And so, of course, the young monolingual said, yes, I will do that, and got her boat together. Everyone helped her build it, and then she pushed it into the river of meaning, and immediately the river began to send up little waves, greedy little fingers of water, sucking away the salt, taking things, but still she rode bravely past those currents of meaning, and the sharks watching her inside the water, waiting for every last mistake that she would make until she arrived on the other shore of Multilingua, and all that was left was a handful of salt. And all the people of Monolingua said, Is that all you brought? And she said, yes, but I will go again.
Very one question. How did monolingua manage to communicate with multilingua as a translator?
Here is the question. There is always, underneath all communication, the desire to speak.
Yeah.
The desire to hear and the desire to speak will transcend language. But here is the central thing. You must put down your barriers and be naked. Any attempt at translation, you must remember, is a noble failure at the beginning. It will not succeed. It is already doomed. But you must now listen to translation not with your ears, but with your heart. You are now asking that fundamental, vital question. Let me into your life. And you do not come into my life with a magnifying glass. You come into my life unarmed, because I am unarmed inside my life. Together, unarmed, we will speak to each other. But if we arm ourselves with logic, if we arm ourselves with the belief that there is a transcendent linguistic translation available which will be perfect and rigorous, and it is my knowledge that transcends yours, all translation will fail.
So with such quiet people on my panel, drop. I think...
8 minutes ke andar?
Huh?
Was it inside 8 minutes?
I do not know. I have to ask the ladies. Okay. Okay. So, I've dropped my...
Another request, please. Do not serve water in plastic. Mysuru Literary Festival, plastic-free next edition.
Okay, I'll jump into my questions. With permission from the panelists. Okay, my first question is to Dr. Manavalli. Dr. Krishna Manavalli is a professor of English in the University of Mysore, and she has written several books herself, many books and articles herself in English. I wanted to ask her, how did you get inspired to start on translations? Okay, and translations, and especially Dr. Chandrasekhar Kambar's work. And the second question I wanted to ask you is, in the book, When the Wind God Fell Sick and Other Folk Tales, you also had this, you have a play there. How do you expect the children to read it? I mean, what effect do you expect to see on the children by introducing a play? Please.
Okay. To start with, I'm so happy to be here with all of you and then all the fellow translators and writers here and creative writers too. Because to start with, I think that's the way I go about translations. Translation for me is a creative act, basically. The paradigm which I keep thinking of all the time when I think of translation comes from music, because I also happen to be a musician and I've learned Sirod for some time from Pandit Rajah, that is just Sirod Maestro. Now, one thing that strikes me when I look at translation or the problem of translation is, what exactly do you do there? How do you translate? Because it's so very often, and even now, people talk of translation as a logbook of gains and losses. And I don't quite agree with that. That's because it's, again, going back to music that I see light about how I see translation and how I can talk about translation. How do you kind of play a raga? How do you sing a raga? It takes a very long time of practice, listening and soaking in that raga. And it's only then that you can play it correctly as well as creatively. Probably translation is something like that too, which is the reason why I think a translator must first of all soak in the entire oeuvre of a writer whom he or she is translating, which is what happened with me when I started reading Kambar. I kind of lived among languages. I grew up in Bangalore, and then there was a lot of Kannada around me being the state language, and then my home language is Telugu. And there was a very distinct English sensibility which my grandfather introduced to all of us. So it was like moving among all these different languages and reading Kambar even as a child, and reading Kambar later as a grown-up person and trying to translate Kambar. All these came kind of naturally to me because there is something very different about the manner in which Kambar writes. The rich folk, North Karnataka folk idiom, and the metaphoric imagination. It's very difficult to translate that into a language of different culture. Then again, I try this kind of seamlessness, a sort of fluidity in my English. I try to capture those rhythms, and then I try to bring in the musicality of North Karnataka folk. It's difficult, but then that is what I strive for, that sort of seamlessness. And another thing which drew me to Kambar was also how he moved away from the times in which, and the zeitgeist of the times in which he was writing, for instance. It was the high time, it was a peak of the Navya movement in Kannada literature, but Kambar chose an entirely different path. He moved back to his cultural roots in North Karnataka, and then he tried to bring in that idiom and those knowledges and that wisdom of generations of North Karnataka culture and ethos into his writing. And that is something which drew me to him too. The sort of collective ethos that he's talking about, or even as there are other things which speak to me when I read Kambar, for instance. The archetypal mother figure who is at the heart of most of Kambar's writing, Mai, Idimai, she is at the heart of all his writings. And this is also something which drew me to his writing as a woman and also as a translator and a reader, right? And then coming back to your other question about the wind god. Wind god is somewhat different from my other translations because this is meant for children basically. That's not to say it's only for young adults, it's also for everybody who's young at heart. After all, folk literature is for people.
Yes, it's very sweet and earthy at the same time. It takes us back to the roots where, these were the stories our grandparents told us. You heard it at your grandma's knee, so it sticks with you.
Yeah.
And we at our generation especially had this connect with the older women in the family who would tell us those stories.
Mm.
So it brings that flavor out very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is when I kept thinking of translating this work because basically it's meant for children, and then the simple and direct North Karnataka idiom he uses in the plays is something which is difficult of achievement in another language. I was trying to do that. And another thing about the play is also a short story. It is adapted from a short story from the same collection. And all the play as well as the stories are meant for children. And they have this very strong concern with ecological matters. And then there was a line which kept buzzing in my mind. It was humming in my mind. Save the tree. That's a wood nymph, you see. This drew me to the translation of these short stories for children. And I think this is something, there is a message there which I want to reach out to children from various regions, from various nationalities, very, very diverse kind of locations, which is what I was trying to do there, basically. And of late, I've been thinking about something that fascinates me. We talk about translating text, we talk about translating context, but this concept, this idea of Valerie Hamilton, who talks about a translated reader, that is something that has been, fascinating me of late. So the kind of readiness, the kind of openness that is expected wanted of a leader who's reading a translation and somebody who is going to embark on these very, very exciting cross-cultural journeys. That is what is required here. And I think writing for children is like opening up a new folk wonderland for them, which is why I started doing that. And I hope, I've done what, combined what I wanted me to do. And it's.
Did you check with him when you were done?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he said he liked it very much, and he said something very interesting. He said, my readers told me that they didn't miss Kambar in the translations, and I think that's the highest compliment.
That is the highest
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, my next question is for Mr. Pinto. I'm scared? Okay, later, we'll come back to you. Okay, my question to you all is, how many of you have seen PS1 and PS2? Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. What is the relationship between Madurantakan and Arulmozhivarman? How many people are saying, remembering the meme when they used to have, tuition classes where you had to teach the relationships between people? Well, we have with us a lady who has all of that information down to the T. Ma'am, Ms. Preetha, Rajah, Kannan, welcome to our panel. And honestly, the title throne, I think you are a very brave woman. You must be called a Veera Tamilachi, or a warrior princess in Tamil, for having embarked on this trip itself.
Okay, maybe fools rush in where angels fear to tread, okay? don't read too much into all this. And Jerry's raised the bar so high, like I'm looking at it, and she waltzed over it very easily, Krishna. And now it's my chance, so I mean, be patient with me.
Okay. Please tell me how you dared to take on this huge...
So one thing I realized when Jerry and Krishna were talking is I don't think any translator's journey is the same as another's. Because I didn't go to slay dragons the way he went about it, nor did I hear music the way she did. For me, it was a completely different journey. So actually, how it started for me was I had the, maybe I was lucky, you may disagree, or maybe, pros and cons. I spent my entire childhood, the learning part of it, in English-speaking environments. So basically, I regret to say, but I'm even more comfortable in English sometimes than I am in Tamil. And then later, it kind of hit me. I said, good heavens, what is this? And and then I realized that there's this urge to keep in touch with your roots. And then you think, why was I not aware of all that which is out there in Tamil and which I have not really, not even looked at. So for me, what you're all most interested in, because I realized that, my earlier books are very niche. So they also are to do with the Tamil Puranams, but they're very niche. What has really got me into the mainstream is the Tiger Throne, which all of you are interested in. And so glad I saw so many hands up, okay? So anyway, my first recollection of Ponniyin Selvan was, these 5 hardbound volumes standing tall in my mother's collection of books. But as I said, unfortunately, poor convent-educated, only English-reading Preetha had her nose too deeply into English fiction to even bother about them. And I just ignored one of the greatest novels, Tamil novels ever written. Fortunately, we all have a second chance in this time to make course corrections, right? So then the years passed, I was married, and then one day I walked into the courtyard of Tanjavur's Periya Kovil, and I just froze, and there's that towering gopuram which just kind of, drew my eyes like a magnet and made me automatically raise my eyes up to that evening sun-splashed sky. And then I go into that sanctum and I look at that huge lingam, truly God-sized. And then I come to Rajah Chola, and who's this man? I mean, who's this man? This kind of vision, who thinks on this scale, who actually builds a temple like this. And then that brought me to Ponniyin Selvan. And then it was very coincidental because I happened to be just having a chat with my editor, and we were discussing what's your favorite book, what do you read? And I said Game of Thrones, and she said Ponniyin Selvan is our Tamil Game of Thrones. So there again, okay, Ponniyin Selvan, okay now. This is something I have to look into. I looked into it, and all of you who have read the original in all its glory and all its Tamil glory will agree. You look at it and Kalki. So that's how I came to this book. And I think Lakshmi would like me, if I'm not mistaken, that usually happens, would like me to talk about the movie and what I think about it, anything like that. So like
Not really. Not really.
Okay.
Not really. The book is something else.
Okay.
The book is sacred,
Okay.
you know, way
Yeah.
up there.
Right.
The movie is just a glimpse
Yeah.
of the
So
book.
then what happened was there was this 2,000 pages where this brilliant Kalki had just taken a few nuggets of historical information, and you like an oyster, you know, it gets a little bit of sand and layers of nacre to make a brilliant pearl. He done something like that, you know, taken some historical facts and he's given you this pearl of a book, and that's 2,000 pages, and I have wanted to condense it into one volume. It's 5 volumes. I want to make it one volume, a version which still retained Kalki's the body and soul of Ponniyin Selvan in this one volume, 800 pages. I was determined to do it, and then but it was such a pain to get just even little bit to leave out. It caused me so much of heartache. And there I was trying to get all that dry humor into crisp English, difficult. And then I had my editor suggesting page limits. I should rebel, over that. But then finally I did get it done. And I think I've done justice to it. Okay, it's left to you. Tell me.
One follow-up question for you.
Yes,
What
Lakshmi?
was the Tamil people's reaction to it? Did you get good positive feedback or negative feedback?
To be very frank, I think the Tamil people will read the original Tamil.
That's what I thought.
Okay. So like
This is for non-Tamil
yeah,
audience,
yeah.
basically.
It is meant for them, and I'm very good.
Okay. It is. I read most of it and it is awesome. It does hook you. You start reading. I just turned it and started reading from the middle and I
But
kept
that
going.
credit goes to Kalki, not to me.
No. I don't think that's the whole point of a translator. You cannot give all the credit to the writer, right? A lot of it goes to the translator who makes it possible for us to read it, other people to read it too. So I think you deserve a whole, for
Thank
this
you so
book you
much.
deserve
Thank
the
you so
credit.
much.
Thank you. Ms. Preetha, Rajah, Kannan. Now, in Mahakavi Bharati once said, go all over the world and bring back the treasures of the world to your home. சென்றிடுவீர் எட்டு திக்கும் கலை செல்வங்கள் யாவும் கொணர்ந்திங்கு சேர்ப்பீர். And that is what Mr. Sundaram Kannan's publication has been doing. His Kalachuvadu, the Padipagam, the publishing house, has been involved in translating a lot of exemplary Tamil literature into other languages, world languages, and bringing books from other world languages into Tamil. So please tell us about your mission, sir. Could you please tell us about your mission, what your publishing house does by way of translations?
So, I won't say I went in 8 directions. I only kept going to Frankfurt.
Okay.
Probably there I met publishers from all directions.
Okay.
That's true. So it is by chance that I had an opportunity to go to New Delhi World Book Fair in 2002. And that really was a very enlightening experience for me from Kanyakumari, and I knew till then only a little bit of Tamil publishing and Malayalam publishing industries. So Delhi was a complete new awakening, the World Book Fair. I saw books in 26 languages, and all those halls and all those meetings. And then through that experience, I had an opportunity to go to Frankfurt Book Fair, and again that was completely, it's like the mecca of bookshops and publishers, and again books from 100 countries. Your chance to interact with them, and those opportunities, through those opportunities, I thought, since I had these opportunities, which probably many other publishers did not get, I should try to do 2 things. One, try to translate books from all over the world into Tamil, and also try to sell rights for Tamil works to other language publishers, and take them to other languages. The first part was very easy. That you have to pay money and you can buy rights for most books. There was no competition in Frankfurt for me at that time, so I could choose any author and like Marquez. And when I told my colleague that Marquez was not published in Tamil at that time, they almost fainted that I had this opportunity. So I could do that very easily in the sense that yes. So that was the easy part is that of course it was difficult to make those contacts and buy those rights, but in one sense it was easy because they are available and it's economical thing. You make possible to send the money and you get it. But now selling rights is completely different. That you really have to start from totally nothing, zero, because nobody knows that there's a language called Tamil, which can come as a big shock to Tamils. We love to think that we are the mother of all languages in the world, but nobody else knew that. So it was a bit of a shock, and then you begin from there. And there was no writer you could quote, like for Bangla, you can say Tagore and start from that. But there's no writer I could say that whose name Asian or African or American publisher, European publisher would know. So there's no book that I could say that which they would recognize as okay, this is the language of this book. So those two things are very difficult. I mean, it's not that Tamil books have not been translated. Probably some was there could have been, but modern publishers don't work on those areas. They need contemporary writing, contemporary books. So that was very exciting, but also very tough to move, to take them English translations of Tamil works and try to sell them. And very slowly, and then it became a little easier once you crack the ceiling. We have now managed to sell rights of Tamil writers like Manavalli or Salma and many others to Sundaram by 30-40 languages across nations. And it is very exciting when the smaller and the farther the language, the more excited you feel, even though the money might be less. This month I was able to sell rights to Icelandic, which it gave me a lot of thrill. And once when I sold rights, I think to, was it Azerbaijan? Yes. They were not able to send me the copy. Sorry. When I sold rights to, I think, Azerbaijan or Kosovo, on European station, and they were not able to send me the copies because the postal department did not have an arrangement to exchange post. And I had to then send the copy to a friend in Istanbul and get it again reposted to India to give the author a copy of the book. So these things are very exciting things about this translation process. And we also publish from many languages across the world and also from India. And about 20% of our publications every year is translations. And I think it has been a very rewarding and enriching journey.
I have a follow-up question for you. See, today it is a sad but true thing that print media is losing its grip. And many magazines and publishing houses even have shut down. For example, National Geographic is going to be stopping its copies from next year on. So in this kind of an atmosphere, into a world like this, you're bringing more books in. So what is your view of the whole thing?
So when I see myself as a publisher, I don't see myself as a publisher of books. So my thing is that that we create the content for the book.
Okay.
And then according to the times or the reader's choice, they can read it as an e-book or they might consume it as an audio book. That is their choice.
Okay.
And I'm not tied down to the printed book.
Okay.
So that's not very necessary. But I think printed books are going to be there.
Okay.
I don't see a big fall in the market for printed books. How I see is that the e-books and the audio books, they expand the market.
Yeah.
They make the market more reachable and they reach to more and more readers. So, but in the future, if the print does come down, and that has not been the end of the publisher.
Okay.
Because our job is to create the content, and what form the content takes, that will depend on technology and the times.
Do you also try to somehow reach books to children in schools and stuff? So because the readers of tomorrow are the children of today. And if they are losing their interest for books, I mean, this is actually across for all of you. Children are losing their interest in reading books or waiting, don't have the patience or the attention span. So, what do you think can be done to interest children in translated books? Is there something that anyone can think of?
I can add to that because that's why I say hats off to Maniratna. If there's one thing he has done, he has encouraged the interest in books in children. I have been to several schools in Madurai, and usually when I talk to the children, how many of you read? And maybe, two hands, very hesitantly will come up. Or maximum, if I phrase the question this way, how many of you have read Harry Potter? Then I'm lucky. I may get about 6 hands. But when I went to, after the Tiger Throne, and I had gone to one of the best schools in Madurai, and I asked them how many were, there were 2 children in standard 7 who had actually read this entire book and brought it to school. So, I was so impressed. So I said, there you see. So what, Kannan is so correct. There's an interlinking, you expand. Okay, you saw the movie, you want to read the book. So, it's like, what do I say? The children get roped in, somehow or the other.
I used to be a tuition teacher. One of those despised people who went to people's houses. Everything to make money, buy books.
Oh.
And the parents would say to me, sir, please tell him now he does not read anything. And I would turn to the child and say, you do not read anything, please read. And even the parents would know that this is not right. So they would say to me, sir, why you are like that? No, please tell him properly. And I'd say, can I tell you? And there would be a moment of freezing. And I would say, what do you do when you come home? And at that time it was television. They would come home and dump themselves in front of the television and they would start watching television. So I said, if you came home and you actually picked up a book, your kid is a monkey. It may look like a human being, but it is a monkey. Monkey see, monkey do. Monkey see right now that you even Dadi Ma and Nani and Pati and whatever you call yourself, you're reaching for your phone.
Yes.
So they will reach for the phone as well. You don't blame them. If you were to demonstrate reading to them, you were to sit there reading for hours every day, laughing and saying, this is the way to get them to read. When they reach for the book, say, no, not for you, not now. Not now, later. When you grow up, then you read. Now you play with the phone. Yeah. So actually, I would say to priests as well. In my community, you take children to church and they play in the aisles and whatnot. I'd say, diba them. Say, grow up and come to church, and they will all line up in front of the church. Okay? Deny those brats books. Don't give them books. Right now you see children with their parents and children saying, would you like this book, Baba? And Baba is saying, I want that PlayStation, I want that, whatever disgusting rubbish they want. Children are disgusting in general. You want to recognize this. Do not romanticize them because they are small versions of yourself.
Yes.
Your duty is to civilize them. Now, civilize, and this is the way, enlightened self-interest. This is what I tell children. I say, basically, you are destined for failure. 90% of you are going to fail at whatever you want to do. Okay? It is daddy says, mummy says, you can do whatever you want. They're lying. You cannot get into medical college just if you want. But what you can do is prepare. You can prepare for success. And preparing for success is reading. Because reading plants the seeds of ideas in your head. And 10 years later, those seeds are a forest of ideas. And you can walk through that forest and pluck ideas for yourself. And this goes for you as well. You now, what did you do for your brain today? How much did you spend on your brain this week? How much reading have you done this week? Don't tell me I read when I was in college. What right have you to ignore your brain now that you're 50 or 60? How many books have you bought last week? Blaming children all the time.
I think Jerry is giving you all enough brain food. We don't need to be shouting at you.
I'm shouting.
So, Ms. Manavalli, what do you have to add to this?
People say to me, very nice book. Can I take a picture with you? No! What is a picture with me? me, buy my book, read what I'm thinking. I don't want to take a picture with you. What is the use of this picture? 10 years later, you're dead and someone's looking through your phone and deleting stuff, including my picture.
Oh, someone 10 years later is putting your books to the kabadi wala.
Perfectly alright. Kabadi walas are wonderful recyclers of ideas. They are magnificent people. Don't you dare say me. Half my library is from kabadi walas. I would not have been able to be a book reader.
Half my library is with the kabadi walas, unfortunately. All my articles.
And you are a good person because now someone will read that book that you don't want to read. If you have a book in your house, don't hoard it. If you have finished reading with it, de do. Azad kar do. Let it go. Let it find someone else.
I think this is something we have to start in Mysore. We have to start a book exchange venue, where every month, today we do have a book exchange venue. You bring a book, you give a book, you take a book. This should become a regular feature. You have book days in Mysore, maybe one every month. Maybe we should do that. Yes. Now, sorry, Ms. Manavalli, we have taken it over. We have taken it over.
That's okay. That's okay.
Go ahead.
Actually, Jerry's scaring me with his dark and dystopic vision about children's books. I've just written a book.
That's exactly what I have.
But probably, I think one good thing we can think of at the moment is we do function in digital environments, and reading happens there too. Reading, talking about books, discussion, all that happens there too. So slowly, maybe the children will also be led to this printed media, and they'll start reading the other kinds of books too. That's what I'm hoping.
Yes.
I wonder what Jerry has to say about it.
I have, okay. How many of you read Tintin? Put up your hands. Okay. Very good. Mwah. Wait. Always a trick, na? Name the translator of Tintin. Bas. Okay, there, one person names. Say, you know the translator of Tintin?
I know of Asterix.
Hey, if you're a writer, shut up. Huh? Or if you're a translator. This is it. Much of the reading that we did as children came out of translation. Tintin came out of translation. Asterix came out of translation. Gotya came out of translation. Feluda came out of translation. Champak, Chandamama, these magazines came out of translation. Amar Chitra Katha came out of translation. We have a tradition. Arabian Nights came out of translation. They took it and called it Arabian Nights. Hitopadeshidar. Or the Katha Sarita Sagar. All these things came out of translation. The thing is, I think, what happened is what I think Preetha said, and I agree, and you said a very interesting thing, course correction. Okay? Course correction is what happened to me as well. When I realized that I was eating chicken masala every day, when there was a buffet set out. The buffet had Hindi, Marathi, English, Konkani, and Gujarati. Kannada, I don't know the script. But these are the languages that I could read in the original. I added Urdu to that. I learned Nastaliq. Now I can read in these 7 languages. Why don't you do that? Why are our education system corrupt, stupid? Everything that it is gives us this gift. Gives us the gift of scripts.
Everybody listens and you'll have no need for us translators, okay?
I pray for the day but that physically is impossible. No? I mean, this country alone, Dr. Devi says, when I asked him, how many languages do we have, doctor? He said, 1,537 and counting. And counting. We are not going to get there. You're always going to need translators. And a good translator is as valuable as a good writer. As seriously valuable as a good writer. I'm saying that myself.
So I have a question for all of you. So what now? The buzzword everywhere is AI, right? Chat GPT. What is that going to do to the translation world? And first, you are not going to answer. They are going to answer.
Yes, I'm a handicapped technically, so leave me out of this. Over to you all.
No, because I saw this ad which said you give ChatGPT your idea, main idea, a few sub ideas, you can publish an ebook in minutes. And I was so sickened, and I thought, what would this do to? What do you think this will do to the publishing world? I mean, you just feed it in and get it out on the other side. What do you think would happen?
Not happening already, or what? Already, see, the idea of ChatGPT, the idea of any artificial intelligence is always to make the difficult work easy, right? Sorry to use this word, but the shit work easy, right? You want to take the shit work off your place? Creation is fun. Why would you not want to do this? Why would you not want to create characters and put them together?
Maybe some people find creation difficult. No,
Then don't do it now. Ja, khel, do gardening, do cooking, whatever you want. See, artificial intelligence will be used, I think, eventually to write blurbs. Okay? It will be used to write synopses. It will be used to write all that the junk that publishers send out. This enthralling and mind-boggling book, which are blah, 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 blah. But artificial intelligence can only, its natural boundary, its natural event horizon is the past. What has happened can be taken and converted into a good solution for the present, but it cannot extend into the future. Because it relies only on what there is there that is fed into it. We have on this table, on this platform, more imagination than every chatbot they can invent. Just as five.
The other one question I wanted to ask was, how do you translate the untranslatable, the idioms, the the colloquialisms, even the swearing, just calling somebody your brother-in-law is never going to cut it. Or, calling somebody, no, brother-in-law, exactly. Or, my son, nan maga. Okay, that comes so naturally to us. What do you do when you have to translate those things?
I think translation is a matter of a lot of linguistic and ideological choices. So probably it's also something very relative and contextual. One thing I don't want to do is turn into a native informant and give exhaustive glossaries which mars the reading fun. So that is one thing I try not to do.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So shall we open it up to questions from the audience? Anybody has questions for any of these panelists? We have wowed them into silence. How do we translate this silence?
Or maybe they're too scared to ask Jerry anything. You can ask me, don't worry, I don't bite.
Great man in the front.
Okay, thank you for a very riveting discussion, energetic as well. So my day job is implementing AI solutions. So GPT. Okay? Wait, my other thing is I'm an author. So
There you are.
right?
He showed you his imagination. Yeah.
No. There is an authors group where we've been having this discussion. So I was actually telling people that there are authors now who are starting to write using GPT, in the sense what they will do is give a scene and say, and the justification is that, we are getting over our writer's block. So if you give a scene, it's going to pump out 1,000 words for you, and then they go in and do whatever they want.
That is called editing, isn't it?
Yes, that's so what I was telling them is, just like you have, these stamps saying organic food. I came up with a stamp saying no AI writing, fresh and original. And so there is going to be this schism in the writing world. Just wanted your perspective on that.
I wonder if you've heard of James Patterson.
Yes.
So James Patterson is not I don't even know if it's a group, it seems like a worldview. And I think that was the early form of AI, which is, I think, James Patterson probably sits down with Maxine Petro, whoever it is, and discusses the idea. She goes away, writes it, she comes back, he fiddles and says, yeah, now put your name, put it out there, etc.
Even Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys used to be written like
Nancy
that.
Drew and Hardy Boys and remember the Bobbsey twins?
Bobbsey
all
twins,
came out
yes.
of the same woman.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was a woman.
Okay.
Franklin W. Dixon was
Yes,
a woman.
Franklin W. Dixon,
And
yes.
produced, though, and I think actually Enid Blyton was originally ChatGPT.
No, you cannot say anything. You say Enid Blyton here. Oh, all the convent-educated girls will rise up in revolt.
I have good old Secret 7 in my reading
I
list
do
right
too.
now. Okay, I'm saying, see, I think eventually, ChatGPT, when Microsoft Word came out, and it started underlining my words, okay, like telling me grammar, Microsoft to either you're telling me that this is not the correct word. I was like, I wanted to punch it in the head. Then teaching, when you're teaching students, you say, okay, will you please listen to Microsoft Word? They might have a clue for you. So I'm saying it really depends. All these are eventually tools, right? We were told that computers would remove the organic, connectedness of using a typewriter. But when typewriters came, they probably were told that organic connectedness of using ink and pen. Each technological change comes with fear. Okay? The fear is always there. The fear is the driver. The fear is the challenge. The fear is the motivator. Okay? We will frick this AI. Okay? We will deal with it. We will come out there in full kusti mode. Okay? And we will wrestle it to the ground. But we will not be defeated because human imagination is unlimited. It's a resource that you cannot count in pixels or bytes or bits. Now you're asking me questions or you're asking the audience.
Sorry. Audience are, okay, here we have another person. By the time our mic reaches him, I need to ask you, see, the words that you use is almost as important as the ideas, right?
And that would be destroyed by AI.
So I have a small observations to this. I just shifted to Mysore. I'm a central banker, retired just. Came to a place whose language I don't know, took the risk. I retired from Reserve Bank of India. This, I go by data. Really, this is a fiction we are telling that the children are not reading. In our generation, people had hardly any money to purchase books. It's all nonsense. They are reading in a different way. You don't understand. I lived all over the country. I go to the bookshops. Please see who are there. If as a percentage of 144 people, 5% children read, out of the 35% children, that's a huge number. So it's all a fiction we are creating as if in our generation we read a lot. This is the first thing. The second thing I really congratulate, thank Mr. Jerry, because I am struggling for last 15 days with my 10,000 books, because every 2 years I get transferred. Okay, but I will just leave one suggestion. For last 30 years, I have never carried a packet of sweets to anybody's house. I carry books. My children say that only thing left for you is to give a book to a newborn. I'm waiting for a newborn to give a book. You give these damn things so that these hospitals run and the sweets cost 1,000 rupees. We don't give books and all of us talk. In fact, my closest family friends over the years have built a library of the books I've given. Not that I'm a great man. What I'm telling is just we have to slightly rethink the whole thing. Go by data. Children are really reading in a very different way. We need to understand that.
I have there is a library in Mysore, I'm told, which I have been supporting by sending them books. It is for Tibetan refugees. So if you have, and their children. So if you have spare books and you'd like to send books to them, please contact me and I will give you their number.
I'll just say another thing. We set up, personally, my friends and myself set up 6 libraries in Tamil Nadu meant for child laborers residential schools. Okay? So it's all that we have to do is we are all imagining that children are not ready. That's all.
And there was a story that came in Frontline about a tribal child who copied out a book of short stories to take it home. So we live in, because she wanted so much to own a book. So she copied it out in her notebook and took it home. So we live in a world in which the middle class's children may not be reading or reading. I don't have children myself. You may be right, sir. I don't know. I suspect not. But I don't know. But there are tribal children, there are village children who need an opportunity to read. We need to be pushing libraries in every way we can. And one way that you can is by giving azadi to the books that you're not reading anymore, especially your children's books. De do na yaar.
Any questions? No. Okay, we really need to wrap up. I'm sorry. My thanks to Ms. Krishna Manavalli, Mr. Sundaram Kannan, Ms. Preetha Rajah Kannan, and of course, Mr. Pinto. Thank you all very, very much.